Thank you for taking time out to do the Art of Fearlessly Giving Back interview.
Great, looking forward to it.
Let everybody know who you are and what your role is here at Conscious Capitalism.
My name is Scott McIntosh, and I'm the founder of Conscious Capitalism Arizona. We are a chapter in the global Conscious Capitalism movement. So I'm the founder and a board member of the chapter.
Well, thank you, first of all, for founding such an awesome opportunity here in Arizona for business owners. It's pretty cool. Now, you could have spent your time, because technically you're kind of sort of retired, even though you're working and running businesses still, but you're in this part of your life. You could be doing just about anything. You could be completely staying at home playing golf every day. Why start an organization like Conscious Capitalism Arizona?
So just my slight backstory that leads to this is I had a career in deep underground mining, and I bought a business, I grew a business. Sold that in 2008, had financial success, and through that career, as we were growing the business and employees would have families and new pickup trucks showing up in a parking lot, well, business is good, and we're doing really good things. And I sold the business, and it was 2008, 2010, and simplistically awoke to a world in which business is bad and capitalism is bad, and I just don't believe this. I come with a fundamental belief that capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other socioeconomic system that we've ever come up with. So I sold the business, I got involved in the nonprofit world, set up a foundation, my wife and I still do a lot of nonprofit work. But as we do nonprofit work, as essentially we've got executive directors that are passionate about what they're doing, fundraising, looking for money that comes from business. My real work is in the business side of things. I found a passion for fostering entrepreneurship in youth. That's high school and university. And I was stumbling around for words to how do I describe my way of doing business and contrast it. And I stumbled across conscious capitalism, which was in the nascent stage of a growing national and not quite yet global movement. And I discovered the language, and the term we use is I was an unconscious conscious capitalist, meaning I did not know the language of conscious capitalism, and that's all that it is.
Right.
But this is how I had grown my business over many years. And so as I got on an airplane, I learned, I met people, and that's when we founded the Arizona chapter. We were the third chapter in the world after Chicago and Australia. And I've now incorporated conscious capitalism into every bit of teaching I do through the chapter, through my own for-profit business, and high school and university.
So you and I had a very similar experience going to the consciouscapitalism.org website and reading just even the first paragraph. And even the tagline made me laugh out loud. I mean, it just elevating humanity through business.
Right.
Is just huge. It's a huge statement. I think that oftentimes we think that business is, like you said, bad. But I really truly believe that good business is what's truly going to change our country and the world. And that being able to support families and give people a meaningful work and a way to earn a living that allows their kids to go to school and food to stay on the table is the most noble and benevolent thing that you could possibly do for the world.
Right. I mean, it's an incredibly lofty statement, elevating humanity, but the truth of it, and my certainly belief over the last 200 years, really is free enterprise. And it's interesting that free enterprise is an okay word with people. This capitalism is
it's like free will.
I mean,
right?
as I invest in businesses now, and as I invest, as I grew my own business, I had a financial success. I accumulated capital, and now I invest that capital in businesses.
And I say this all the time: if you want to give back, you actually have to earn money. I used to be a social worker in New York City, and it's amazing the things that you can't get from social services. One of them might be tampons, diapers.
Right.
Things of personal hygiene items, those types of things they give to a certain point, but it's really important to be able to afford diapers when you have a baby that needs a diaper. Yes,
obviously, incredibly so.
Yeah.
And money, people have this fear or misunderstanding of what money is, but it's really a relatively benign thing that facilitates exchange
what you do with the
between
money,
willing traders. And there's a lot of capitalism, what you do with it, and conscious capitalism, and it's how you make your money. And so one of the things that conscious capitalism, it's too often used term crony capitalism, which is people lying, cheating, stealing, essentially. And it's not capitalism. That's what gives capitalism a bad name. The Wall Street and public companies and basically begging government for special favor. And conscious capitalism is it's free enterprise exchange. And I'm doing some research on this right now, but the private business in the U.S. and around the world dwarfs public companies, and so
Absolutely.
It's part of an issue is an education about it's my real belief is business as a force for good. We see it all the time. People, entrepreneurs, and in all of our communities, is entrepreneurs. We're good. They're businesses. They're getting capital from investors and growing their businesses. Something happens when the companies go public and they get these short-term pressures
the
on
Enron
them.
effect happens,
but they're
right?
just yes. I mean, there are some bad guys that
Yeah.
we need to do something about. I don't support that. That is not capitalism. And so just this business as a force for good. I mean, there's a place for government. There's a place for nonprofits, absolutely. But businesses that earn money, and it's in conscious capitalism, there's 4 tenets, but purpose is one of them. And if you want to execute on your purpose, you need money, nonprofit or for-profit, whatever you are.
Exactly. So the values that we focused on yesterday when I spoke with Heidi over at WebPT, that your painting is going to kind of focus on are 2 kind of interesting values. And the first one is community outreach and giving back. And so obviously everything that you're doing on conscious capitalism is about giving back. But can you speak a little bit more about the idea of giving back, and then we'll talk about the other one in a second.
Yeah, well, as I'm doing conscious capitalism, there's an element of giving back as I'm putting a lot into this. But from the philosophy or ideas of conscious capitalism, there are 4 tenets. And this is going to get right to your question. Mm-hmm. The 4 tenets are higher purpose, then making money. For me, purpose and profit, they go hand in hand. They're intermingled. But it's higher purpose, it's stakeholder orientation, it's conscious leadership, and conscious culture. And the giving back for me in conscious capitalism is what we call stakeholder orientation. And it means that as a CEO are running a business, it is not just about me, it is not just about the financial stakeholders, it's about my employees, my customers, my vendors. And in conscious capitalism, we describe it as also the community and the environment as a stakeholder in the business. And so the way I don't call it giving back so much, and it's different than the term corporate social responsibility, which is I'm giving to nonprofits perhaps, but in conscious capitalism, we're looking at it as my business is going to grow better in a thriving community. And so the work that Heidi is doing by giving back and the nonprofits that she supports, all of that results in a thriving community, which means her business and all of her businesses are going to be better.
It's really like a self-fueling thing. If you have a stronger community, then there's more money and more opportunity, and then there's less need for charity, because people are actually earning a living and being able to contribute in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise, right?
Right, and in so many different ways. And businesses will succeed in thriving communities, and so there's a role for business to help their communities thrive.
The idea of accountability and is alignment with speak your mind in your values, right? So if it says productive conflict is one of your values, which really is a different way of saying F up or own up, right? That it's part of having the courage, respect, trust, and vulnerability to say, you know what, it didn't go as I planned, or we just had one of those moments happen right now. My SIM card got full on my video, right? So okay, we got to deal with it, right? So that's part of your values, actually, is being able to be accountable and speak your mind and be productively in conflict.
The productive conflict is an interesting one, and it absolutely goes to accountability, because as you're declaring a breakdown or an F up or whatever it may be, that can lead to conflict. Because if I made a commitment to you and you're disappointed if I'm not going to be able to fulfill that commitment to deliver the whatever to you by whatever time, and so you're going to vent, and nobody wants to. We want to avoid conflict. What we teach is productive conflict. Conflict can be productive, and so it's just natural it's going to occur. And as we teach something called high-performing teams as a part of conscious leadership, is you have to build trust to be able to have that productive conflict, and then with that comes then you can get into this mutual accountability and being able to hold each other accountable.
And that's really where good relationships are formed, right? When both people can own their side of the street and make decisions and deal with conflict in a productive way that ends up being a success as opposed to a complete breakdown.
Trust is a huge part of it. Yes, for us to have productive conflict, we need to have some level of trust. Otherwise, if we don't trust each other, it will not be productive. It'll be unproductive conflict.
It'll be the unraveler.
Right.
So, it's interesting. We kind of answered both of these questions. The first question was, tell us about the core values of these two core values that we discussed, and how does conscious capitalism exemplify? Really, when you're identifying them, you're automatically telling us how they work in your organization. So we've answered the third question. The next question is, what do you tell other companies about the benefits of being a social responsible company? So you're a social responsible organization. What's the benefit of being socially responsible?
Business is a part of the community, and there's certainly a huge financial aspect of that, but good business and thriving business takes place in thriving communities. And so every business to be even more successful, looking in the community and how can I be a part of the community. And I mean, it's interesting, the word responsible doesn't fully resonate with me, because sometimes in this corporate social responsibility, that sometimes is a notion that corporations have sinned and they need to do something to give back to absolve themselves for their sins. So
right.
That's not totally it. As conscious businesses, business is good and honorable and free enterprise exchange, and we look at our communities as being part of our stakeholders. I don't have a responsibility necessarily to do it, but it's just good business to be doing something in the community to help the community thrive.
I was just thinking as you were talking, it makes me smile. It's not like when a wife gets flowers from her husband, the first thing you'd ask is, what did he do?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you run your business like basically bringing flowers all the time, as opposed to only when you mess up.
Because I love my wife and it's the right. I wish I really did that more.
When your wife watches this, she'll expect flowers now.
It's her birthday today. I bought her some flowers last night, actually. So this is very, very timely. But it's as many conscious businesses, they donate to nonprofits, and in the community, that's generally looked at as being corporately social responsible. And it's not that CSR is necessarily a bad thing, just that the people that look at business and capitalism as being bad can look at it as being absolved for their sins. Certainly Heidi and many conscious businesses, they don't do it for that reason. They do it because they know that their business will thrive even more inside a thriving community.
Well, that kind of leads me to the second part of this question is, what's the benefit of partnering with WebPT? I mean, a great company, but for you guys, what's the benefit of partnering with them?
Well, WebPT is a thriving business themselves. They've got venture capital that's gone into them. They're growing, they're thriving, and as we as Conscious Capitalism are one of our missions over the next 5 years is to shine a bright light on 1,000 different business stories, businesses being a force for good in the community. Everybody, I mean, I can go on and I can talk about the tenets and purpose and stakeholders and conscious leadership, conscious culture. But it's stories about business like WebPT that really resonate with people. We find that in the universities, and the professors are looking for, Scott, this conscious capitalism thing. Send me your stories.
They're walking the walk.
Send me just tell me about the businesses that are doing this and how they incorporate the tenets of conscious capitalism in their businesses. That's what we need. And so WebPT is just a great example, along with many others that are part of this growing community.
I have on my door when I leave my studio, be the example, right? So it's a good to find, when you're a company like an organization like Conscious Capitalism, it's really good to have examples of companies that are actually doing the do, walking the walk, and are actually the example of what the benefits of being a conscious capitalist business is in the world. That's actually possible, right? They actually exemplify what's possible in the world.
We have, within Conscious Capitalism as a global organization, we've got many stories of Whole Foods, Southwest Airlines, Container Store, all these examples. And
Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, Ben & Jerry's, Vermonter, shout them out.
But those don't resonate with people, and as particularly as one of my roles has been bringing this to earlier stage companies, and we call it Great from the Start. And it's somebody who's starting a company as well. I'll get the conscious capitalism stuff when I'm a billion-dollar company like John Mackey and Whole Foods, and I have a marketing department and I can do all this.
He started off that way.
Well, he started off that way, and it's great from the start, and
that's awesome.
I mean, you're
not going good from great. You're great from the start.
You're great from the start.
Awesome. That's really awesome.
If you're struggling with cash flow, and I mean that creates issues that you have to deal with, the realities of those issues. So I mean, you can't. I mean, a Container Store, they pay double typical retail, they get 3 times the productivity. That does not happen instantaneously. And so as I work with early stage companies that they're paying less than a living wage in some cases. We communicate with employees, and we're looking for opportunities for employees. And if you're not paying a living wage, there's going to be turnover, and so you've got to get the company to where it can pay living wages as a minimum, not for any demand reason. It just makes good sense to do those.
Right,
if you want to have long-term employees working for your business.
So we talked a little bit before we got the interview about this concept of fearlessness. And my last question, which is what I've asked the 39 business owners that I've interviewed so far in the Art of Fearlessly Doing Business series, which is the brother of this particular series. So what is the biggest lesson you've personally learned about being fearless on a personal level? Because whenever you lead an organization, we have moments where we're up at night kind of going, oh my God, wow. Like, how am I going to deal with this one? Like, what's next, right? So tell people, not just even from a business perspective, personally, what you've learned about becoming a fearless business owner.
Yeah, and it's not fearless. I mean, the fact is there is fear. There's risk in what we're doing, and so where from our earlier conversation, it resonated with me is, my former business, and I grew a mining engineering company, and mining goes through ups and downs, and there were a lot of down times, and cash flow, and are we going to be able to meet payroll, and those sorts of things, and you had
280 families, which
we grew to 280 employees. 280
how many
families.
Children is that? 280 families. That's like maybe 2 kids apiece. You got like twice as many kids at least, right?
It's a lot of kids. There's a real responsibility that you feel there. In my early days of growing that, I felt one of my roles needed to be to show no fear. And I did a good job of that. I can exude
you're a dude,
real
right? You're a man. Men kind of get that don't ever show your vulnerability thing.
Right. I don't do vulnerability. At least I didn't used to, and I've continued to learn as I've continuing to mature. And so we had a crisis moment in the growth of our companies. That part of the issue was that as I'm showing no fear, and everybody knew we had cash flow issues, and somebody's going to lock the doors, and we're going to be out of work, and me showing no fear, nobody believed me. And so we ended up, and this was just a huge learning moment for me, and I didn't even know the word vulnerability at the time, but we held a meeting, and there was a lot of fear in that meeting. And I opened my heart, and I opened my wallet, and I said, I'm scared S-less. Here, I'm scared. I'm scared too.
Yeah.
I will not let it fail. And so it's a tough balance between showing no fear, because I think that was a role and people wanted me to show no fear, but they also needed to know that I too recognized the truth and the challenges that we faced. And that it took me showing my vulnerability and letting them know that I too was scared. And I don't know how everybody can necessarily strike that right balance, but this is just a kind of a fact. And whether you're growing a business or there's just many challenges in life, that sometimes we just need to buck up and dust ourselves off. And sometimes life's not fair, and whether it's in business or whatever we may be doing, and we just pick ourselves up and we get on about it. And part of that is just having a self-confidence that you'll do well. And it's not fearless. I mean, I totally get that. But you just need to stand up and move on as if you are fearless, because that's what life's about.
One of the in the second series of The Art of Fearlessly Doing Business, I interviewed Najla Kayam. She has a company called Kayam Marketing, and she calls it putting your big girl panties on.
Right.
So her painting actually was a big pair of red granny panties. So sometimes we just have to put our big girl pants on, our big boy pants on, and just move along, right, when things are tough.
Absolutely, and that works in business. And a regular conversation. I know you're a bicycle biker, and there's a girl, Debbie, who we go biking with, and we're climbing hills, and she turns around and put your big boy pants on. There, we gotta go chase after Debbie.
Just deal with it, right?
Right.
Well, Scott, I really appreciate your time. I'm so looking forward to working on this painting. I'm getting visions of all kinds of things happening. So thank you so much. Your painting is actually third in the series. And so the opening is on December 8th at the Fearless Artworks in Carefree. And I look forward to seeing you then again. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. I'm just highly intrigued as to what you're going to paint, and if there was anything.
It won't be panties, I promise.
One of the things we struggle with in conscious capitalism is this purpose higher than profit, and for me it's an intermingling of purpose and profit, and that if there was I don't know if that's anything that could come through in a painting in any way, but it's a core issue that I mean,
Yeah,
whether you
yeah.
film this or not, but it's when I deal in the investment community, our language in conscious capitalism is higher purpose and profit as a byproduct, and I totally get that. But I've been part of this movement and thinking about it for a long time. But for investors, profit a byproduct, shit is a byproduct, and so
Right.
so it
Which came first,
misses
the chicken or the egg?
misses a point, and so it's something I'm working on with the global movement actually. That I think part of our language is misses a point, and it's to the purpose is an incredibly important part, but I think without the profit, you cannot execute on your purpose, whatever your purpose is. And it's, for me, the profit is at least a co-equal
I'm
to the
I'm
purpose.
seeing a chicken and an egg here in my mind. This really is a which came first, the chicken or the egg question, right? I mean, like, is it the egg or is it the chicken? Well, you need the chicken to get the egg, but if you don't have the egg, you can't have the chicken. It's really a very circular question.
And is what the purpose comes first. As every business that starts, and every entrepreneur, he or she has a better idea of how to change the world and make it better.
Yeah.
And my purpose is to my invention, my whatever, my better idea.
It's to fix the
And
problem.
It's to fix a problem. That's what every
And the
business
profit
is
is
doing.
actually the byproduct of fixing the problem.
It is
And
a
WebPT is a perfect example of that. You know, Heidi was a physical therapist and she had a problem. There wasn't software that
Right.
was specifically created for her part of the medical community.
right.
And so she solved a problem, and as a result, she has 300 employees and 10,000 customers today.
She's a hero.
Yeah.
Yes, she's a hero.
That's a really great place to end.
Right.
Thanks again,
Good.
Scott. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.